Welcome to your Wednesday, May 13th edition of Mark Madness. Today is a short passage. It's a short passage, therefore this will be a short video, but it's a passage that I think is meaningful and helpful in what it means to be a follower of Jesus Christ. Read Mark chapter 10, verses 13 to 16. And after you've read those few verses, come back to this video. Jesus here, and there are people that want to bring their children to Jesus. They're not saying that they need healed. These aren't children that seem to be possessed with an impure spirit, as we've seen through the Gospel of Mark. These are simply people bringing their little children to Jesus to place their hands on them and bless them. And notice what the disciples do, right? The disciples act as bouncers. The disciples act as gatekeepers. Get these children away from Jesus. And when Jesus sees this, it drives him crazy. He's indignant. He says, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of God belongs to such as these. Truly, I tell you, anyone who will not receive the kingdom of God like a little child will never enter it." Now, a lot of times when people are talking about this passage, they like to talk about a child's innocence. They want to talk about how precious and innocent they are. Jesus isn't saying that. We're not talking about innocent children here. Look, we all know little babies can be the most selfish and demanding human beings on the face of the earth, right? We believe in original sin, and nobody is just purely innocent. But there is something about children in this culture. The same thing is true about children as it was true for women. They had no power. They had no power in a patriarchal society. Because of that, it was common for them to be abused, common for them to be mistreated. Really, they were totally dependent upon others. And notice what the disciples are doing. The disciples are kind of living into that mentality, living into that attitude. Keep these little kids, these irritating kids away from Jesus. We got bigger and better and more important things to do. But Jesus welcomes them. Jesus welcomes them and then points to them and says, "This is what a follower of me is like." What does he mean when he says that? Two takeaways that I want you to have. First, Jesus welcomes those with no power. Jesus welcomes those who have no status. Jesus welcomes those who are dependent upon others. You know, if we're honest, we're probably repulsed away from people who have no status. We want to be around people with status because it helps our status. But Jesus welcomes the disenfranchised of society. Jesus welcomes those with no status. And by welcoming them, he gives them status. He gives them position as a part of his family and as a part of his kingdom. And that's a model for us as well. We need to be welcoming of others. But the other thing that Jesus says, if you want to be a part of my kingdom, then you have to become like them. Again, he's not talking about this cute little innocence of children, because we're not cute or innocent, right? Neither are the children. But what are they? They're helpless. They're dependent. They can't come with any status or power on their own. And that's the same thing about entering the kingdom of God. When it comes to entering the kingdom of God, we're helpless. We have no status. It is simply by God's gracious invitation and God's gracious welcome of us that we become a part of the kingdom of God. And in that regard, we're like little children. We don't bring any status or power into the kingdom of God. Rather, we are received by God's grace, wholly dependent upon what Jesus Christ has done. So a disciple is one who's wholly dependent upon Jesus Christ. And a disciple is one who, like Jesus, will welcome those with no power, no status, and point them to Jesus.